Hi again, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Capital Talk with RV Business, sponsored by the Dicor Corporation. I'm Rick Kessler with RV Business, also from RV Business, Sherm Goldenberg and Gregg Fore. And joining the three of us today is Jeff Rutherford, President and CEO of Airxcel. Jeff, thank you very much for your time.
Good morning, Rick. How are you guys doing today?
We're good. We're good. Sherman, I think you wanted to lead off this one.
Well, I mean, partly because there's several directions we can go with Jeff Rutherford, in as much as he not only serves as the head honcho, of Airxcel, but also the chairman of RVIA at the moment. So let's start with Airxcel. One of the big news stories, one of the biggest news stories of 2021 was acquisition of Airxcel by THOR Industries Inc. And I think it's incumbent upon us to ask you, Jeff, how is that going? How is that going?
So, a lot of people ask that question, and it's been pretty good when you think about the whole transition. We've been a private equity business for 30 years. And for the first time in 30 years, I tell people we're not for sale. What that does is it changes what we spend our time and our energy and our focus on. It enables us to think a little bit longer term regarding investments, regarding development of product, regarding activities we want to take as a business. And, that's a great change for a company like Airxcel. As it relates to THOR specifically, THOR has always operated all their businesses independently. And everybody within the THOR family kind of is responsible for their own performance. And our experience has been no different. We have to earn our place with each one of the THOR companies, just as we do with the non-THOR companies, the Forest Rivers, the Winnebagos, the other independents of the world. So from that standpoint, I'd say it's been a great transition so far. It's been a lot of fun working with the folks at THOR Industries, the corporate folks, but the work at the divisions and the work at our other customers remains the same.
You put
Jeff,
go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was going to skip a little bit. Coming off of the last week's NTP Stag Show and the Tampa Super Show the week before, from your level, where are we headed? What do you see? What did you experience? I know you were at both events.
Yes, and I'll be honest with you. When I came into the beginning of the year with all the things that were happening in the economy with politics and everything else, I'll be frank. I was concerned about what the consumers might feel, what dealers might feel, what the industry itself might see going forward. So my first experience in actually talking to a larger group of people was at the Tampa show. And, there you're actually speaking with retail customers, and the excitement, the energy, the attitude, all of those things I was concerned about, they seemed to, they were aware of them, they acknowledged them, but that was not going to drive their decisions. And, I thought that was incredibly powerful. But at the same time, it was also limited to one geography. It was Tampa, Florida. Then going to the NTP Stag Show last week, I had the opportunity to speak with a large number of dealers. And what I heard there was, their inventories are a little bit healthier than they were before the end of the year, in part because of the strong numbers that the industry shipped in November and December. So they were happy that they had a little bit of inventory. But what, again, I think was very positive is the amount of traffic they were getting through their lots. They were all exceptionally pleased with the amount of people, not just people coming and looking, but actually people coming and buying. And, I think I told Rick at that event, my view of 2022 is significantly stronger today than it was just 10 days ago, 15 days ago, prior to having the opportunity to speak to all those folks.
You guys go ahead.
So Jeff, I guess the follow-up to that is the forecast for 2022 is another 600,000 shipments.
Right.
Are you thinking that's pretty possible?
I think it's really possible. There's been some challenges here the beginning of the year with, this latest COVID strain has caused some absenteeism. We're experiencing it in our factories. Many of our customers are experiencing it. And that's kind of a wave that's going through. That's impacting somewhat of volume of units shipped perhaps in January. But at the same time, we're starting to see that trend slow down. I think the people who were going to become ill have become ill. Fortunately, for the most part, these are pretty mild symptoms for most people. So it's not like what we were experiencing, 18 months ago. Going forward, look, there's all the reasons in the world to believe that the industry has done a lot of great things to improve supply chain, to improve capacity, and to get the product out into the field. And that really was what limited us from being, 625, 650 last year, was just not being able to produce more. So I think most businesses have figured out ways to improve capacity, improve output. And as such, I see no reason why 600 is not achievable again next year. The consumer is surely there. And if any of you have traveled by commercial airlines, it just reinforces every day you get on an airplane why an RV is a better way to go.
Jeff, let me take a follow-up. You mentioned RVIA's forecast.
Mm-hmm.
From an RVIA standpoint, you're in your second year of being chairman.
Right.
You just completed strategic planning. Go RVing seems to be hitting a new stride. Can you tell us where the focus is right now from the board's perspective on as we look forward from RVIA's viewpoint?
Sure. So obviously the signature programs continue to get, the majority of the focus from the board, those things like standards and government affairs and Go RVing. Go RVing is looking at doing a 2.0, if you will, an upgrade or a facelift to reflect where we're at today. RVTI, which has been an activity which has been strongly supported by the industry as a whole, is continuing to get a lot of focus, a lot more effort on recruitment of new technicians into the program. And then, a little bit, something that's relatively new, we began last year, was begin to engage with campground associations, state parks and RVIC and some of the private campgrounds about how do we increase and improve the experience that consumers have when they go to the campground. When you think about the new technologies of RVing, like electric vehicles and such, what do the campgrounds need to do to make those types of things effective and successful? Changes in technology and communications like Wi-Fi and different types of streaming within campgrounds, all things related to infrastructure within the campgrounds. How do we use some of the Great American Outdoors Act to help improve and increase what's happening within the campground? So that's a new initiative that RVIA is helping to coordinate with some of these other associations to just make the entire experience for the consumer better.
I'm glad you brought that up because it's something that hasn't gotten a lot of ink, but appears to be the campground task force, as you guys call it. But we're going to be hearing more about that this year, aren't we?
There's a lot of work and there's a lot of discussion right now about what can be done. How can we share some of the information that's available, both that RVIA has created, that RVIC has created, that KOA has created? How do we make that information more accessible to people, not only for developing their own campgrounds, but when they're going and dealing with local and community leaders about, they want to make an expansion, or they want to invest, or they want to do something, it always works better if you have data to support what you're trying to achieve. And, this is, I think, a pretty strong initiative to get all that data collected and distributed so that people can utilize it.
Well, one more RVIA, outreach that is important is the search for new techs. I hear about it, and it's a fairly focused thing this year as well, is it not?
So one of the things about RVTI was, first they had to create the curriculum. Then they had to create the method to distribute that curriculum. And the third part of that was a recruitment. How do we recruit technicians into the field? And then how do we help place them into the dealerships once they've been trained? So that's really the phase that RVTI is at now, is the development of the recruitment process, reaching out to the high schools for people who are interested in trade as opposed to college, reaching out to the military for people who are leaving. Even some of the rehabilitation and prisons has been an area that has produced some talented, qualified people. So yeah, now we're at that recruitment phase, trying to bring more and more people into the training realm and help out those dealer partners.
Jeff, on that note, Airxcel, under your guidance, started a Kevin Phillips scholarship program that I know that you have supported personally, and many of your management staff have done as well. And the program, if I'm not mistaken, is to help fund students into RVTI. And I just want to make sure everybody's aware, and you made everybody very aware, but I want to make sure everybody's aware of that initiative that Airxcel started in Kevin's name, and hope you put it out there again so industry participants can feel free to add to that fund.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you bringing that up. Kevin was on the RVIA board of directors and on the executive committee when this whole concept of RVTI was first created and established. Kevin was a huge advocate that not everybody needed to go to college, that some people, were better off following a trade path. And he was a huge advocate of that. And, when he passed away last year, many people reached out and said, hey, what can we do to honor Kevin's legacy and his contribution to the industry? And I spoke to his family, and this was an area that he was passionate about. This is an area that Airxcel has always been very passionate about. And collectively, we thought, what better way to help out than establishing a scholarship fund? You think about somebody leaving the military or somebody coming out of high school. Training and education is just an additional burden that they have to figure out how to overcome. And how could we help satisfy that need for some of those folks? And yes, it's been very well supported. And Airxcel, as well as a number of individual leaders within the industry, have contributed. And this is something I hope we can continue for a long time and build up a nice scholarship fund there that will last for years to come. So yeah, thank you for bringing it up, and I'm sure we'll I'll use my outreach as I can over the course of the coming year. There's some other people within the industry who approached me at NTP Stag about doing some fundraiser activities this summer, which I thought was pretty interesting. So yeah, I think it's a great place to focus some energy.
Good. I have one more question, Rick.
Yeah,
Sure.
Go ahead.
I want to turn just a moment, if I may, Jeff. The company Airxcel just put out a press release last week. It was regarding preparedness for the new RVs coming on board that is picking up momentum, whether you call them EVs or whatever.
Right.
And that Airxcel has firmly implanted itself in a development process, both in the past and in the future, I think, to bring products to market that match that product initiative by the RVers.
Well, yes, and that press release that came out last week is the first of many that will be coming out over the next several weeks. The idea was we wanted to make the market aware that this is something that we've seen coming for quite some time. And when we think about the products that we produce, whether it be, heating water, cooling air, et cetera, these are things that utilize energy. And we've been focused on how do we make these things more energy efficient? How do we look at things that are beyond just just put more energy, more horsepower behind it? How do we make things more efficient? How do we look at doing things that are different than what have been done in the past? We've done that on water heating. We've done that on space heating. We've done that on cooking. We've done that on air conditioning. We've done it with ventilation. We've done it with the DICOR roofing product to make things more energy efficient, with Vixen composites to make it more insulative. So there's a lot of things that we have been working on over the past 18 months or so, specifically towards this new technology that's likely to emerge over the next several years. And the reason we put that press release out there was to let people know that this is something we're engaged in, something that we have, and we'd be happy to chat with folks, independently about what those things may be.
Good, thank you.
Rick, to you, to wrap us up here.
Well, actually, I wanted to bring one other thing.
Please do. Please do.
The forum here. One other activity that RVIA is leading on this year is the Emerging Leaders Conference that will be held in March. This is something that RVIA recognized that there's a lot of young talent in the industry. How do we get them engaged beyond just what's happening within their small area of responsibility? How do we get them engaged in a larger form of the industry overall? And these will be our future leaders 5, 10, 20 years from now. Getting them engaged now and what's happening in the industry overall is only going to help preserve the industry and success long term.
Thank you for that. Yeah, good point. Rick, something Rick's been involved in.
I've been involved in that. Yep. Helping out where I can. Ryan Elias with EEE Leisure Travel Vans. He's the chairman of that coalition, I think, the Emerging Leaders. I have no other questions. I think we've taken up enough time here.
All right.
Thank you so much, guys. Always a pleasure to chat with you, and I hope you stay warm.
Thank you, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff.
Bye-bye.
Yep.